So the Six Nations 2024 is done, and rounds 4 and 5 were fantastic. Super Saturday, 3 brilliant games. Italy with their big away win to Wales. Ireland winning the title, and then that massive ding-dong battle between France and England. That was quality. And to review the whole thing, to compare players, I thought no better way than to look ahead, to get excited for the Lions next year. Let's pick a Lions squad, the squad that I think Andy Farrell might pick based on this Six Nations. I know there's another year to go, but we're getting pretty close, so I think it's a fun way to do it. I'll pick a squad, talk about some players that don't make it, and pick maybe a Test 23 that he might go with. Obviously, this is going to be influenced by my thoughts as well, but I'm trying to think in the way that Andy Farrell might. So welcome to this video supported by Lifting Giants, and first of all, the draw for the winner for Rugby Artwork by Blair Skivington. David Ford, you've come out as the winner. I've contacted you already, and Blair's going to be sorting you out with some rugby artwork of your choice. So thanks for everyone who entered. And also thank you so much for everyone who's watched the videos and commented. I've really enjoyed it. There's been a lot of rugby, a lot of videos, but it's been well worth it. I read all your comments and really learn a lot from them, so keep them coming. That is fantastic. So the question, who will Andy Farrell pick? I'm going to go with the format from last time in 2021, 37 players, 3 hookers, 6 props, 6 second rows, 6 back rows, 3 scrum halves, 3 fly halves, only 4 centres, 4 wings and 2 fullbacks. That may be different next time, but it's probably the best I've got to go with for now, so I'm going to stick to that, even if I think it's going to be different. And to try and make sure there's no real bias there in the way I list things, I'm going to go in alphabetical order, as in England players, Ireland players, Scotland players, Wales players, so I'm not ranking them, I'm not preferring a nation, and we'll see what we come out with, and I'd love to know what you guys think. So for each position, I'm going to put the players that I think that are in the running, not just listing absolutely everyone, but let me know if you think I've missed someone off who should be on there. At hooker, I think Andy Farrell might select the quicker hookers. He likes playing hookers out on the wing like Dan Sheehan, who, spoiler, is definitely going to go. So I think he'll go for that. So maybe Jamie George, George Turner, really good potential starters. They might miss out, but I don't know. It's close. Elliot Dee was the best hooker for Wales, so he'd be in the picture. And even though Dewey Lake was injured, I still think they'd be thinking about him, but I don't think he's got enough money in the bank, if you like, to be picked. So I think he's going to go with the 3 quick guys, basically. Dan Sheehan, Ronan Kelleher from Ireland, and I think he might go for Theo Dan as well of England. He just impacts off the bench so well, so I can see that working. Those three very similar hookers, you could stick to a similar game plan and they could do very well. But Jamie George or George Turner could easily go, so let me know what you think there. But I'm going to go for the 3 quick hookers. Props, 6 props, 3 loose heads, 3 tight heads, useful for players who can play both sides as well, but we're just going to go 3 and 3 here. The old guys for England, Marler and Cole, well, they did their job for England. England's scrum was really good, actually. It didn't fall apart at all. Marler and Cole giving it all round the pitch, but are they a little bit slow for a Lions team? Maybe. Similar goes with Healy, although he's in consideration. And Gareth Thomas and Dylan Lewis, I think, were Wales' best props, but I don't think they're quite up to the standard of the Lions. So I think it would be Ellis Genge, Andrew Porter, and Pierre Schoeman as the loose heads, and Tyg Furlong, Finlay Bealham, and Xander Fageson as the tight heads. I think it's pretty clear cut there. Might not be the strongest list of props we've ever seen, I don't know. The good thing about Genge is his scrummaging was pretty good in this Six Nations. We know he's a good impact player. Porter's probably the class prop there. Furlong's still very strong, maybe not quite the player he was, so it's a good list, maybe not being amazing. Into the second rows, lots of second rows considered here. 6 to take from the format from last time. Ollie Chesham, we saw him transferring to 6 and doing very well, and I think second rows that can play 6 are definitely in demand in the Lions, more than normal, so some of those will go, but there is a guy for England that I think will go over Chesham still, and that's Courtney Lawes. I know he's retired from international duty, but I think he still fancies one last Lions tour, and has Chesham's performances, as decent as they've been, overcome Lawes? I don't think so. He's got the money in the bank, so I think he goes. James Ryan might miss out. Joe McCarthy's jumped over him in the pecking order, so I think that Farrell would take McCarthy over Ryan. And also Tyg Burns being so brilliant, you can't not take Tyg Burn. And there's a lot of other players you could go with. The Scottish guys of Gilchrist, Cummings, Gray haven't really stood out. The Welsh guys as well, Adam Beard, Rowlands, are solid customers. They'd be good lines, but I don't think they've really stood out. And young David Jenkins is definitely in the infancy of his career. I think he's going to get better. Do I see lines in him right now? Probably not, although he'd probably do well around those hard pitches of Australia because he's got a fantastic engine, run round tackling everything. But I do think there's 6 better second rows, and I think he'll go for the big boys of England of Itoje and Martin. Itoje's been absolutely brilliant, I think, in the World Cup and the Six Nations, not giving away the penalties he used to, a real grafter, a real disruptor. He definitely goes, plus he's got his Lions pedigree. Martin, I think, has shown enough to show he's a big physical lad who's going to be very useful, and Tyburn, like I said, gets class, another enforcer in McCarthy, and Ryan Baird and Courtney Laws probably go to 2 second rows that can play 6 as well, although other guys can jump in at 6, so I think that's a really strong 6 second rows, but let me know who you'd take. In the back row, only 6 to choose from, which is pretty tough from this list. Roots is a hard customer, hard carries, hard tackles. Don't think he's Lions though. Sam Underhill's had a really good resurgence. Tackling, in attack as well, linking up. He's definitely in consideration. Farrell's going to be thinking about the injured Tom Curry. Will he come back? So that's something in the back of his mind, but there's been enough good performances probably for him not to go at the moment. Out of the England guys, I think Ben Earl definitely goes. He can play 7 and 8. He's been so good wherever he's been for England. So explosive. Would be amazing, I think, on the hard tracks of Australia. Don Brandt's come on and actually had some decent impact as well, but not enough, I don't think, to get himself in consideration. I think he'll take the 3 starting Irish guys of Peter Amani, Josh van der Fleet and Caelan Doris. Is Amani, no, eye-catching all the time? No, but he does a lot of graft, a lot of experience, can play across the back row, which will help. Van der Fleet is still hard as nail 7, and Doris can play 6, 7 and 8, which is super useful. Conan, don't think he makes it. Richie Darge, Ferguson Dempsey, the Scottish guys, all have good plus points. Maybe Rory Darge is the closest. The now starting 7, he's absolutely everywhere, but I think Tommy Raffel would go over him as a 7. For Wales, he's been Wales' outstanding back rower. Aaron Wainwright's been pretty good. And Talupi Faletau, even though he's injured, would still be in Farrell's thoughts. So the 6 I think he'd go for are actually Charla Cunningham South jumping in there as the wild card, maybe the bolter. I think Farrell will see what crazy potential this guy has. Amazing power. A shame we didn't see him in the match against France because he was injured. But I think maybe he goes. Tell me if that's a bit of English bias. It could be, but I think this guy could be amazing. And then Ben Earl, Peter Amani, Van der Fleet, Doris and Tommy Raffel to round it out, covering loads of positions there, 6, 7 and 8. So I think that is a good 6 indeed. And our word for the sponsor of the Six Nations, Lifting Giants. You've got one more week to get 20% off the Lifting Giants lifting blocks. As we know, ergonomically designed, fit your hands properly, not like flat bars. Get hold of a pair, 20% off in the links below. The scrum halves I found fairly straightforward. The Scottish guys of Ben White and George Horne may be close. White's a fantastic kicker. George Horne is incredibly quick around the base, so 2 very different scrum halves there. But I think Mitchell, Jamieson, Gibson Park and Thomas Williams are the standouts for me. Thomas Williams really grabbed Wales by the scruff of the neck many times, and when he wasn't playing, I think you noticed it. He's impressive. Gibson Park is the all-round genius, does nothing wrong really. And Mitchell is a solid starter for England, has some better games than others, but he's got a good all-round game and a quick guy as well. So 3 very quick, exciting scrum halves. Then on to fly half. Quite a short list here. I haven't put any of the Welsh guys down. I think this Six Nations kind of shown they're not quite ready, not quite up to that standard yet. So these 5, Owen Farrell, I think he would be considered even though he's playing in France, but there's enough quality there between the other 4. Who misses out? And I think maybe Jack Crowley's lack of experience would just make him miss out, although he's a very solid all-rounder. But George Ford had a fantastic last game against France, played as well as he could play, an amazing playmaker, great tactical kicking. He's not going to give you a running game, which has kind of been my point throughout this Six Nations, but goodness me, he's maximised what he's got, and that last game was phenomenal, which definitely gets him into the Lions squad, I'd say. Marcus Smith, a fantastic impact player. We can see he can play 15 as well, which is very useful. And Finn Russell is still a class player, amazing playmaker, amazing running threat, and also I think his tactical kicking could be very good as well. In that last match against Ireland, I know they lost, but some brilliant kicking as well. So I think those 3 are the clear guys to go, with Crowley close behind. Centres, Only 4 in this format, which is pretty tough, so I'm going to go for kind of 2 12s, 2 13s, a little bit of interchange between them. Ollie Lawrence is a powerful guy, but makes just a few more mistakes than I think you'd want from a Lion. Henry Slade, his skills were brilliant, his passing was phenomenal in that last game against France, but he doesn't have that physical edge of some of the others. Bundyaki definitely goes, an absolute beast of a 12, still right on top of his game. Who goes between Henshaw and Ringrose? I think one of them go, maybe both, but I think one. Henshaw had a really good Six Nations, but I still think Farrell will think that Ringrose is a slightly better player, so that's a tough one. You could say Henshaw, but I'm going to say Ringrose for now. Redpath I thought was brilliant when he played for Scotland, but I think you take the 2 other Scottish guys of Tuipulotu, who can play 12 and 13, and Hugh Jones. Tuipulotu was a big miss when he was injured in that last game. So those are my 4 centres. Then 4 wingers. These are the guys to be considered. Tommy Freeman is a good all-rounder, a real strong guy. Doesn't quite have the pace of some of the others, so that might play on Andy Farrell's mind. Calvin Nash has come in for the injured Mac Hansen, who I think they're both considered, and Nash has done super well. Maybe not quite enough to be a Lion just yet. Darcy Graham is injured and he'd still be considered, but I think you take the other 4 of James Lowe, Van der Merwe and Rio Dyer, and I think you do take Veo Abusu. I think Farrell will have seen his amazing power, his amazing speed, a little bit again of a bolter there. Lowe is a class act. Van der Merwe very much give me the ball, I run, I kill things. He's good at doing that. And Rio Dyer, kind of the revelation of the tournament for Wales. So good on the chase, so good everywhere actually. For a tiny guy, he hits above his weight. He's always involved. Love this guy, definitely deserves a call up for the Lions based on that. So those 4 wingers. And the 2 fullbacks I think are fairly clear. Stewart, if you want a big guy to take high balls, yes. George Furbank, decent on the counter-attack. Could have done with playing the full France game to state his case, but has been known to make mistakes. So I think it's pretty clear that Keenan and Kinghorn would go as the 2 fullbacks there. Keenan maybe not his best Six Nations, but still a class act. Kinghorn was looking really good under the high ball, and we know he can play 10 as well, which really helps. Then on to the Test 23, and I quite like the proportions of each nation in this 23 kind of reflect where each team is at. The front row of all Ireland, Porter, Sheehan and Furlong, I don't think you could not start with those guys. I think they're the class. But look at the impact coming off the bench. The 2 Englishmen of Dan and Genge and Xander Fagerson of Scotland. I think that's a really good way round to do it. Loads of impact off the bench and pace, and a really strong starting front row. Porter especially absolutely on fire. Then in the second row, there's my captain. I think it's Maro Itoje. I think he's overcome his giving away penalties thing. He's not doing his crazy celebration stuff anymore. He's very considered. He's very calm. He's got Lions pedigree. Maybe it's his turn to lead. Alongside Tyg Byrne, a class second row. And on the bench, tough one, but I think I'd go for Baird maybe over Courtney Laws. That second row that can play 6. Then another back row on the bench, I've gone for Van der Fleer. The starting back row, I'd actually put Doris at 6, Rafael at 7 and Earl at 8. So a little bit smaller back row, but I think on those fast tracks of Australia, it could go really well. Rafael's been unbelievable as a jackal threat. Doris as your all-rounder, your extra line-out man, and Benel as your explosive carrier. So I like that pack, really good and some impact off the bench. 9 is easily Gibson Park, all round the best 9 by far, and alongside Russell, those are a really potent pairing. Spotting what's on, playing heads up as well as a plan, I think they'll be absolutely great. In the centres, I think I'd put Tuipulotu at 13, not 12, have Aki at 12, Tuipulotu at 13. Loads of power to get over gain line, loads of creativity as well from Tuipulotu, and on the bench I'd have Ringrose covering the centres. He could cover the back 3 as well. Then on the wings, James Lowe definitely starts on one wing. He gives that amazing kicking, power, passing. I think he's got the all-round game. He's a definite starter. Then on the other wing, I think it goes to Rio Dyer. He's been so good in this Six Nations. I don't think you can not give him a spot. So quick, so good on the chase, so good in the air for a small guy. He starts, loads of pace on the wing, a bit of kicking as well, power in the centres. Then to round it out at 15, we've got Kinghorn, a little bit more height than Keenan. It's a close one, plus Kinghorn can cover 10 if needed. On the bench though, we've got Mitchell and Smith, the 2 English guys, for some impact and pace off the bench, plus Smith could play fullback as well, and then Gary Ringrose as I mentioned. So that makes it 11 Irish, 6 English, 4 Scottish and 2 Welsh, and I think that's about right for the balance of power. Let me know how I did. All a good bit of fun. Comments down below, and I'll catch you next time.